I don't know if I said this on the air yesterday, but and I did another show the other night, and it just seems like the Iowa take, and this is not a scientific study, but from that little bit of interaction, from previous knowledge of a lot of places, not because it's Iowa, but a lot of people aren't even considering that they're going to lose that game.
Who?
And Iowa.
Okay.
I think a lot of Iowa fans are not even considering they're going to lose that game. And I know that every base has that, but I think that 75% think that they legitimately think they're going to win that game. And while I don't consider myself, I am not a homer. I don't care what anybody says. I look at anything. I just see Indiana superior. Now the ball bounces how it bounces, and that's bounces funny ways. But Indiana's better offensively. They're better defensively. That does not mean they're going to win the game. You still have special teams. You still have the crowd. You still have the first game of the aspect. So there's a lot of things that go into the equation, but there's a reason that Vegas made him a 3-point underdog. That's a coin flip on the road. That is a coin flip in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is telling you, yeah, they're like 50-50 at best on Iowa. And a part of that is that we talked about this yesterday. Or was it earlier today? I don't even remember. What's on that jersey, man? This was yesterday. It's still Indiana does not get that recognition. Iowa, they do, but which is okay.
Well, right. I mean, nobody in those two locker rooms is probably focusing on that aspect of it. But the interesting thing to me is the defense is really going to be the strength for both teams, both Indiana and Iowa, in my opinion. I think that Indiana, the biggest difference to me is I think that Indiana has a lot more answers on the offensive side than Iowa, but I don't think it's that much of a difference. Indiana's going to have to be able to establish some sort of a run game. They don't have to rush for 200 yards or Stephen Carr doesn't have to have this breakout performance, but they have to be consistent, almost like Illinois was against Nebraska in that week 0 game. I mean, you go back and watch it. It wasn't like Illinois was ripping off 40-yard gains. They had a few explosive plays, but mostly they were able to get 3 or 4 yards here. They were able to get 2 or 3 yards there. They were able to wear down the defensive line of Nebraska. And I think Indiana needs to be able to do some of that to a degree, because I've said this before. Iowa's secondary is really good. They got Matt Hankins, Jack Kerner. They've got Dane Belton. They've got a lot of really good playmakers. So if Michael Penix has to throw the ball 40 times, that's not a good thing for Indiana. So you have to – it doesn't have to be 200 yards, but you have to be able to run the football. And in the past, Indiana hasn't been able to do that. I think they're better on the offensive line. I think they're better at running back. So I expect it to be a little bit better. But if you see issues with the run game, that's where my concern for Indiana creeps in, because you don't have a guy like Whop Phillier anymore who you can throw the ball, a bubble screen, and he's able to get 6 or 7 or 8 yards. You don't have that guy, in my opinion. So that's where my concern comes in. If you can't establish the run, it could be a long day for Indiana.
Yeah, that's something that I've said going into this season. The running game is something that has to improve. Mm-hmm. It has not helped. It has not hurt them in the past couple seasons, but it hasn't helped them. But if you're not helping, you kind of are hurting because you're not doing what you need to do, like you just talked about. You're not giving that relief to the passing game. You're not giving that relief to other options. But they've gotten away with that to a degree because Michael Penix is Michael Penix. He's special. And Ty Freifogel is special. And now you add DJ Matthews. So, and a more experienced, little deeper offensive line. And you add Delon McCullough as a running backs coach in that running backs room, that while they lost the experience of Samson James, They gained Stephen Carr. Obviously, he won the starting job. So, and I know there's a previous relationship with the coach, and that I think that the running game is, there's no way that by adding all of those positives right there, that running game is not going to be better.
I agree. I think it's going to be better, but I guess my concern is Iowa's defensive line and linebacker play is usually pretty good. So that's right where I have some concerns on the Indiana standpoint. I think throughout the course of the season, there's no doubt it's going to be better. I'm just saying I think it has to be better in this game. And we've mentioned this on this show before, and I don't know why it doesn't get more talked about more, I guess you could say, is, again, I still have questions because Spencer Petras has not played in front of a crowd. I think that's going to be a big deal. Maybe not throughout the course of 60 minutes, but when you look at what Indiana can do and how they can put pressure, if they're able to rattle him early, I mean, that might make a big difference, because we've seen Indiana has been able to make quarterbacks panic. I mean, they made Justin Fields panic a year ago. You don't have Jamar Johnson back, but you do have some really good pieces. You got Tywan Mullen, Reese Taylor, you got Micah McFadden at linebacker. You've got some nice guys on the defensive line. So if you're able to add or get pressure on Spencer Petras early, and he makes a couple mistakes while he's getting used to playing in front of a crowd of 70,000 at Kinnick Stadium, that could be the tone setter. And so that's where I think that, to me, that's a big deal, because yes, he was last year's starter. Yes, he's getting into a rhythm with his guys. They are adding some new pieces at wide receiver. They are adding some new pieces on the offensive line. So how's that going to come together? Again, Iowa to me is a developmental program. It gets better throughout the course of the season. It's not like they're bad to open the year, but generally they play teams, a MAC team or an FCS opponent, in that first week of the season, and that's kind of where they work out the kinks. And they don't have that opportunity. Last year we saw it against Purdue. They dropped a game they really should have won. And that's where I have this same sort of concern for Iowa. They're going to be good. It's going to be a tough game to play. But what's Spencer Petras? How does he respond to that environment? And, can Indiana's defense, if they're able to get pressure on him early and rattle him, I think that goes a long way throughout the course of that 60-minute game.
You're talking about a defense that led the Big Ten, and Iowa has a great defense. You mentioned the secondary. While they've had the most interceptions in the last 4 years overall in the FBS, I think Indiana led the Big Ten last year in interceptions, and they were second in the nation with I think it was 17. That's a program record, and it was a shortened season.
Right.
So they also led the Big Ten in takeaways. They also led the Big Ten in sacks. So this is a defense, and this is a defense that's gotten better with Ryder Anderson coming in from Ole Miss. He's a big old dude out there, man. And they made some tweaks on the defense. And I'm not putting Iowa down. No. What their offensive line's going to do, but what you talked about, he's going to have, I think he's going to have some guys in his face.
I think so too.
You got All-Americans across the ball. It's going to be very interesting, but I don't think that Iowa fans realize, based on a lot of the comments from the last time we talked about this last week, I don't think they realize this Indiana team is that good. And I think that they're focused on Michael Penix's health, on whether or not he is healthy or he's not healthy, like he's halfway. Dude, he's healthy. He's healthy right now. He is healthy. Now, if he gets hurt, I hope, pray to God for no one to get hurt. But down the road, that's that. But right now, today, healthy. Healthy is just 100%. And so that is what it is.
Well, right. It's positive because you've heard Tom Allen talk about the press conferences. He has a command of the offense. He's throwing the ball really well. He's performing at a high level in practice. But to me, you're never going to have a coach say bad things about his players. So you almost throw that out the window. My question is, all of that changes when you're back on the field. And Iowa's defense, like I said, Indiana is going to be better in a lot of areas. They're going to be better in the run game. They're going to be better at the line of scrimmage. They're going to be better, I think, at the point of attack. But again, when he takes a few hits, what's that knee going to feel like when he starts taking more hits? What's it going to feel like if he has to run or scramble? And I don't think he's going to do that a lot. And he shouldn't do it at all. But what's it going to be like when he gets knocked around, when he gets You know, he eventually is going to get sacked once or twice in this game. And so, you know, I don't know what to expect from him, just because he is coming off another injury. He should be at full strength. But again, once you get in that game atmosphere, once you get hit a couple of times, I think to me, that's more where the injury question comes in, because it has been a while since he played. And what's his mentality going to be when he takes those first couple hits? He's a tough kid. There's no question about it. But you can't say that that's not going to be a factor, in my opinion.